Holy shit. So Dan, so your options account went from 175 to 290 and your futures account went from 44 to 180?
Yes.
I mean, literally, if I was together, I'd hug you. That is like unfucking believable.
Well, it's thanks to you guys. It all happened so quickly, I wasn't really prepared for it, mentally. And it took a few days to kind of sink in.
So talk to me a little bit about what you're doing so I can follow it and
okay.
I can.
So I got in to the trade 10, 20 calls at 0.36.
Okay, let me just pull those up.
To be precise, 0.361 was the exact price.
And which options were they, Dan?
The 20 strike in September.
So the 20 strike in September. These guys.
Correct. I got into those at 0.361. Was the average.
So you got into these, so 10 times 0.361 is when you first got into them.
Correct. And what had happened was, and this is the beauty of what you guys do, you're so good and natural at this. When you put out the updates,
yes,
we have to be ready to act immediately. And I was a little bit late, so I missed the 29, getting in at 29, which was an option at that point. And by the time I got in, 36 was about as low as it went. So that part was okay, such as it was. It wasn't the best fill. It wasn't the fill that he had called on the sheet. But based on the market action, it looked like it was going to be the best that I would do. So I got in there.
A lot of these too is just getting involved.
Pardon me?
I was going to say a lot of these is just getting involved and not getting too cute with price. So that's good. That is
one of the brilliant things you have trained me on. I've been trading since the early mid 80s. A neighbor of ours was a local in the wheat pit, and he used to take me down to the board of trade with him, and I would just watch from the visitors gallery. And I was always fascinated by the bond room, and it just never ended being a fascination for me. Now I don't know when you were down there, maybe they didn't have it anymore, but it was very, very cool to me at that point. But I didn't know he was just a scalper. And he did wheat spreads. All of his stuff was wheat spreads. And so anyway, so I got into the position there, and then I held on to it, and I was kind of waiting for his suggestion that when you tripled your money to cover a third of it. But then it went up so fast, I just kind of got caught up in it. And when it was over 23, it was the middle of the night, and I thought, I better not look the gift horse in the mouth here make sure that I at least hit the pause button on this, then try and get in touch with you and get some ideas on what I could do or how I should manage these. Because it's one thing when it's $4,000, $5,000. It's a whole different thing when it's, 150,000 plus in one trade. So I wanted to make sure that I had a strategy that works for all sides. And I guess maybe it's something you get used to. Is that what it is?
Well, it's interesting because when you originally got in the trade, there's $1,500 of risk over. So about that, but then that one trade, what was it? You ended up making $140,000 or something like that?
Correct.
So you're up 140,000 when you're risking such a small amount. It's no longer $1,500 a risk. Now you're really risking, 139,000 that you didn't think you were. So how could anybody possibly sleep?
Right, exactly. That was exactly the situation. And now that I'm a little more used to it, I probably would have done it differently, but I wanted to talk to you about it first to have kind of a general strategy, because when you were exactly right today. You said in the session that when you get these big winners, that's when you really have to hammer. And if I had the comfort level of having been here before, I might have been able to do a lot more gamma scalping and so forth and trading against it, putting it on and taking it off. I was just so worried about getting this Six Sigma event, you know, and then being the dummy that let it all run away.
Well, right. It becomes scary, and it's more of how could I not mess this up rather than looking for opportunity.
Exactly. Exactly.
But with that being said, I mean, that even to hold it for this long, right? I mean, you had to be in that trade for a couple of months.
No, I got into it in July 2nd, and then I hedged it on July 22nd.
Holy shit. So just in 20 days.
Yep.
And that's when silver just absolutely took off. I mean, and that's really what was holding silver back relative to gold is the volatility component. And then that volatility really spiked.
Exactly.
Isn't it crazy how quickly it could happen?
Oh, it's exhilarating and frightening at the same time.
It is scary too. And you're like, why am I scared? But it's scary.
Yeah. Yeah.
Wow.
And then when your wife finds out, then it's doubly, because it's like if it does slip away, it's not like, oh, I had it and it slipped. It's like, what's wrong with you? So it goes from being a good thing to what's wrong with you.
Right. But so many times, especially if you've been trading for a while, the wife is not used to hearing that we made 140,000. She's usually used to hearing, oh fuck, here we go again. You know, this time's going to be different and all that stuff. And they support us because they're wonderful, but it's definitely much better news bringing this to the table.
Right, right. I mean, contextually, if I come back with I lost 25,000 today, she's not going to hear about the other part. She's just going to be like, how can anybody let that happen?
Right, right,
so,
right, right. So have you been able to take the risk off?
So I'm short at 23 this morning. Well, let me back up. Last night it opened ever so quickly at 22.95, but then immediately was at 23.30, 23.40. So I didn't get a chance to get in and take it off. At this point, mentally, I'm comfortable enough with where, like you had talked about way in the beginning, one of the principles is if the things that got you into the trade haven't changed, then why would you get out of the trade?
Yep.
And the principles that got me in have not changed. The situations that we all thought was going to make silver move have not changed.
Right.
And so that's where I was just, I guess I could have gotten out on Friday, no problem, at 22.97. But I wanted to chat with you first. It's nothing with you. It was just something internally with me of just having to get more comfortable with playing with these kinds of numbers.
So that you've been able to stick with it. You know, I made more money on this move here than on this next move here because, you know, we did really well on that. And so to come in on this move, that's great. As far as what to do now, I would move on. I would think that, you know, great, you did phenomenally well. I would, you know, I got to be real careful as far as giving you advice. So not giving you advice, but I would give your trading account a new floor. So before, you know, so at the end of June, that your account was closer to 40 grand. And so if your account was 40,000, what would you have been comfortable with it getting down to before you would say, you know what, it's just too much. I don't want to lose that much.
Probably 35.
Yeah. Okay. So 35 from 40 is not that too far. It is not that far away. So if it was me in that same circumstance and now the account is 150, is that 160?
No, right now it's currently on the screen, it's 182. But some of that's because of the 6,000 of premium that's still left in the puts, the 20 puts.
Right. Right. So for me, that thinking would then turn to, and you know, just using the numbers as an example, don't go under 150. Like I would take that out of play. So I wouldn't think that I now have $150,000 account or 180, I would say, you know what? I can play down to 150, but if I get back to 150, the same mentality that you had from 40 to 35 now becomes 150 to 135. It's the same exact thing. Nothing else should change, except what I personally like to do, and it's helped me a lot go after really big numbers, is I don't mind continuing to keep that 30K in play in this example, because you know, maybe that becomes 250, maybe it becomes 280, and I can play that game until, if I get back to 150, then I'm, you know, it's almost like back to reality. Like,
Got it.
That's my floor. I think it's really, so another thing that we used to do with younger traders or more inexperienced traders is we would take, we would just change the decimal point in their P&L. So instead of them having $10,000 swings, they would have $1,000 swings, but they wouldn't know. We would trick them.
Okay.
We would trick them, and I'm not saying to do that, but that thought process where there really shouldn't be in your mind anything different between your, you know, account a month ago or 2 months ago and the relative amount of risk that you're comfortable taking.
Got it.
You know, you're just, you know, you're just growing up a little bit in the trading world now. Just get to have a little bit more fun managing a little bit bigger account. It probably gives you an extra bullet or two when we're working our way into trades. I would say that the risk right now is people intuitively expect this to happen again, and this will happen when you don't expect it. I would think that it's a grind and just go back to having little goals. You know, just chip away. Don't, you haven't figured it out. Nobody's gonna figure it out, and that kind of mindset, you know, it can get you in trouble. So I would definitely, most importantly, have a floor of your account, and you know, maybe the floor is even 100, and you take 50, and you know, you put that under the mattress. You know,
that makes sense. This is like my Roth that I've been following your stuff with is more the grind trade.
Good.
So my Roth is up 112 year to date. And so I went from like 175 at the beginning of the year to about 290 today.
And that, is that more of like the options?
Yeah, yeah. Mainly with, let me see here. The biggest profits were POS, GDOT, SILJ, those trades with you over the course of the year, and then some other smaller ones.
Yeah, POS.
I made a little bit on with those options, 13,000.
Holy shit. So Dan, so your options account went from 175 to 290, and your futures account went from 44 to 180?
Yes.
I mean, literally, if I was together, I'd hug you. That is like unfucking believable.
Well, it's thanks to you guys. I mean, it's the discipline that you put out, the consistency that you approach it, and the way it's changing the way I approach it in terms of what I'm doing and how I'm doing it, to just grind it out.
It's work, right? It's go in there and do the homework and do the work. Wow, really, really unbelievable. And I mean, you probably joined though in 2016, 2017. Is that fair?
I joined you when you offered an Apex lifetime. So when would that have been? It was about the last time I heard you offer it.
Funny enough, we stopped.
I remember around that time you had a Thanksgiving sale and something else. So when would that have been?
Yeah, I'm just looking at your account. It looks like the first thing you did was the bond boot camp, 9/22/2017.
Okay, there you go.
Awesome. Oh, wow. Okay. That's cool. You were probably one of the last to get in on that. So.
Okay. Yeah, it was an awesome. It was an awesome structure, and you approached this, as you know, like nobody else. And it's made such a difference in the whole attitude towards it, the whole money management philosophy that you and Pablo follow, you know, pretty rigorously, where you're constantly trying to protect capital first, and then you get the freebies for the gains. So those are the things that I need to keep working on. And so I'm very pleased.
Me too, by the way.
Do you offhand know of any options analysis software that allows you to say, okay, I want to take a certain amount of risk. What are all the different ways I could trade this particular instrument option-wise?
I do not, but there's too many. There's too many variables in there.
Okay.
And because with all the different option strikes, you could spread each one, either one time, 2 times, 3 times. So I think there would be an infinite amount.
Okay.
I think what's really important, and I think we went over this today in class, is maybe doing that analysis from one side of the market, where silver, you want to get long, you think volatility is going to go higher. So instead of just looking at all the different trades you could do, you're more looking at all the trades that you can do that fit into your expectations and your parameters.
Exactly, because one of the things I was trying to figure out is there, in that, what you just said, is there a way to evaluate doing 10 or 20 farther out of the money versus a few closer to the money? And if you're going to take it off early, does that multiplier offset the delta? And those were some of the things I was trying to think about. If there was software to do that.
That's interesting. I'm playing around with the unusual options activity software. I actually haven't started to play around with it. Pablo just gave me a login to look at it, and it should be up for today. So we're hoping to be able to share it, at least with the coaching clients, by early next week.
Oh, that's awesome. That's awesome.
Yeah, I mean, from our discussions, I think it's going to be better than live vol. I think it's going to be better than anything else we've seen out there.
That's great. No, this is the enthusiasm and the way you guys approach it. One of the things that comes out of the stream of consciousness when you guys do the deep dives on Thursdays and Fridays is the fantastic just seeing how your minds work and look at it. Pablo did that thing that he was playing around with just a couple of throwaway options on the weeklies in the bonds. And that was just an amazing conversation of something that you can control your risk, and there's enough volatility there that gives you a chance to do something. Because one of the problems with my Roth is when you talk about gamma scalping, they will not let me short against long options positions at TOS.
Right.
So I'm very, very limited on playing those. I can outright buy them against a put, but I cannot short them against a call. So it's very frustrating. Whereas in futures, I can do it no problem.
Well, futures too give you a lot more flexibility.
Gravitating me more towards the futures if I can.
Well, I have a feeling you might be more into the futures after this month. See,
just a little, right?
You know, just weighing the different variables in front of me. Did we get through all your questions, though? Is there anything else that you wanted to discuss?
No, you've covered it. That was the thing I needed to do, was the resetting my threshold and using that as the kind of the line in the sand.
I'm glad we spoke, because that's a big deal. And what you don't want, your biggest risk is for you to see increased volatility at these new levels. You have to find a way to control the P&L volatility. And what that means is when it counts 40 to 35, you have a handle on your risk and where 37 is and 36 and 38. You need to figure that out at this new size account, and you need to figure it out in a conservative way and build up to what risk can you have while still being in the right parameters, rather than making your P&L very, very volatile and figuring it out after, a little too late.
Okay, that makes total sense. And that's why I needed to talk to you, because you've been there and you've done it. And I needed that kind of advice on the generalities of, okay, once this happens, now what do I do? I caught the car.
That's what I,
the car, right? I caught the car, now what?
Exactly. It's being humble and realizing that, you know what, this is a very difficult game, and you just gave yourself some more stakes, some more staying power. Just get to be at the next level, but control the risk.
That makes total sense. One of the things you had said once very early on when I first started with you was you had somebody that had $1 million a month, I think they said.
Yeah, Donnie.
That kind of became a milestone in my head, a $50,000 a month, $100,000 a month. So I had a $50,000 day twice and a $100,000 a month in the same month. And so the next step then would be, the next milestone, but keeping the risk contained. That's the part that you've changed for me. So
it's got to be organic. Earn the right to, get to that next level, which you have. You've put in the time, you've done the work, you've been on every class, you're asking great questions. So, you're doing the work.
Thank you. Thanks very much.
I'm thrilled for you.
Yeah, I really appreciate it. I mean, you're covering everything. I'm really, really glad you started on the futures thing. And I think this futures thing that you're doing with Pablo has so much enormous potential for everybody, because the leverage capability, it always struck me as when I was learning, I started trading in college when I was 18. And didn't know what I was doing. I was in an office on the board of trade, walked down the hall to a firm. Dean Grain was my clearing, not Dean, Dorman. Dorman was my clearing. And didn't know what I was doing. And to go from that to now, this has really been a dream come true.
Well, hearing the performance of your account, especially with, I love that it didn't happen like in the first 2 months where it was more, getting lucky that you've been here and you understood exactly what we're doing. That's, I am so excited just to share that with Pablo as well, because, that's our dream come true right there, so it's.
Yeah. Don't feel that you guys are too much in the weeds on the Thursday stuff. It's so good. Sometimes you can't even absorb it initially, and I have to go back and listen to it a couple of times and then really look at what you guys are throwing out, because the insights are so deep and so magnificent. It's just a tremendous thing. So please don't dumb down the Thursday stuff if you're getting people saying, oh, I want it simpler. Well, that's what Monday's for.
Exactly. And that's what I tell Pablo. I say, Monday, we're talking to 3-year-olds, and Thursday and Friday, there are no rules. We just talk and hang out.
Yes.
That's the direction he gets.
Cool. Thank you.
All right, buddy. Congrats again, Dan.
Thank you. Take care.
Okay, bye-bye. Thanks.
Bye.